Aimee McCammon. I'm the CEO of Augusto New Zealand and I've been there 2 years. Absolutely, we have really strong female leadership, and in fact 70% of our management team is female, which is really unusual, and I think that comes from our founders are a husband and wife team. Michelle Walsh is actually a director, which is unusual. You don't get a lot of female directors. And she was the CEO of Augusto and she moved on to the New York office to become global CEO. And so people talk about unconscious bias, and it's really interesting to see females employing other females, and you do wonder if the unconscious bias is working that well. I have been really lucky to come through agencies and workplaces where there has been strong female representation. So one of my first agencies was Mojo, and we had a female MD who was the second female MD that we'd had, and so it just didn't cross my mind when I was younger that it wasn't a possibility. Although interestingly, I think what you see in our industry is females do really well at the lower levels, so they come through really quickly, really strong representation. And you think that this is an industry where anyone can do well as long as you're clever, quick, strong, good at what you do, you will be fine. You know, have you got the talent essentially? But there's definitely a glass ceiling that women hit, and when you hit it, and it comes at quite a senior level, but you hit it and you hit it really hard. I think we see the big agencies now, they're trying really hard, which is great. It's good to see progress. They know they need to do better. They all have diversity and inclusion strategies, but they don't have the woman in those roles. So Catherine Harris at TBWA has got a brilliant reputation in the industry, but I think we could do much better in that respect. So I was lucky enough to work in agencies with female leadership at the beginning. So Kay Boyle and Sandy Burgum, who were both MDs at Mojo. And then as I went through the bigger agency groups like Saatchi, there didn't tend to be as many women, but I was well supported to do well in my career. So I'm very grateful to the men that gave me opportunities, like Peter Moore, our GM at Saatchi, who sent me to the New York office to work. And in New York, we saw there was actually better representation with females creatively in those agencies, whereas here we don't see that as much. But Bridget Alkema at Clemenger Group is another female who I think is kicking ass, and there's some females coming through in the creative areas that I would love to see them do better and go on do really well. I think the industry can definitely do better with diversity. I think what we see is a great commitment to diversity and inclusion, and I think everyone's realised that as an industry we weren't doing that brilliantly, and the Comms Council now is working really hard to be committed to that and help agencies develop their diversity and inclusion strategies. I think we could make some big improvements in ethnic diversity though. The industry is a very white industry, and that is not reflective of the population of New Zealand, and given that we're responsible for talking to the population, how are we going to address that? And we're seeing that on the agenda, which is a great thing. If we look back, say 15, 20 years ago, where we had great agencies and really great creativity, we actually saw that the industry was responsible for cultural change and really making a difference. Now I think the industry has got a little bit on the back foot, where we're not the change makers anymore and we're less influential and we're trying to play catch up. And creativity as a tool for business is about having an influence in changing the way people feel about current issues or topics or about brands. So it's really important that we understand the people that we're talking to and basically reflect New Zealand in a healthy, strong and progressive way. Well, Augusto do brilliantly on the female front. We have a leadership team that's 70% female. Nearly all of our key roles are female-led. So our head of entertainment, our global CEO, New Zealand CEO, our head of finance, like all really key roles are filled by females. So we're really pleased with that, and it works for us brilliantly. We think we do really well. In terms of ethnic diversity, we know that we need to do better there, and it's interesting when you look at the different sides of our business. On the entertainment side, because there are quotas and specific programs run by New Zealand Film Commission and New Zealand On Air, you do see better diversity coming through there. So we have a really strong commitment. If we're telling, for example, a Māori or Pacifica story, we make sure that there is representation of that culture, and we don't mean tokenism, we mean true representation. So at a writer's table, we would make sure that there's not one token, say for example Pacifica writer there, it would be at least half. And often when we go on to shoot those projects, we make sure, and we quota essentially, in crew we will make sure that any HOD is employing one person of representative colour in their team, and that's one of the ways that we can improve. When we look at the commercial side of the business, the more agency-like content, branded content side, it is harder to get that ethnic diversity, and I think we see it particularly in the creative area. Creative does tend to be, controversially, very male and very white. And you can make a commitment to hiring a female or make a commitment to hiring someone of a different ethnicity to balance out your team, but actually being able to find that person in the market is a challenge, and we've had that challenge recently. And I think that's where the comms industry has to make a commitment to bringing people through the way we see on the entertainment side of the business. Whether you quota or not, that's really controversial, but actually committing to bringing people through and training them into the senior roles, because that's when you have success. Just saying I have only 50% of our team is Pākehā is not enough if it's the cleaner, the finance assistant and the AE who are the representation. You have to bring them through into positions of power and leadership. I would love to see more female leadership. It's good it's in the conversation, it's great that it's on the agenda. I love that people have diversity and inclusion strategies. What I want to see is execution of those strategies, and I think my challenge would be in particular to the big agencies and the big parent groups. If you can see the independent agencies bring through female leadership and succeed in the industry, if you can see our corporate clients bringing females through into senior leadership positions and succeeding, then I would issue a challenge to the big parent group agencies here to bring more females into leadership. Go for it. It's a great time to be coming in. When I came into the industry 20 years ago, it was a good time because as long as you were talented and working hard, you would do really brilliantly. And I saw males, females, people from different sexuality, some different ethnicities all rise through, but then find that glass ceiling at the leadership level. That is changing, and so I think it's a brilliant time for women to come through and actually have an amazing life and an amazing career and not have to give up one for the other, or not have to compromise themselves by trying to do it all, by trying to work 60-hour weeks and be a mother and be a partner and be a friend and have 5 minutes for yourself. I think we're all getting better at that balance in life, and it's a great thing. And this is a great industry. There's so much need for creativity now, and there's no reason why females or any people with diverse thought can't come into this industry and do well and feel included.